Oh, hey YouTube, petey twofinger here, USB woes. So if you have a USB and you're unplugging stuff and moving it around, like in my case I had something in the front of the computer and I wanted to move that to the back so I could use that port. And then a couple hours later I got a window that popped up. Dunk! Windows does not recognize this USB, and then another one. Dunk! And like dominoes, all my USB fell. I didn't even have my mouse. So basically, I think what I had was an IRQ conflict, and that's like musical chairs where you have two people sitting in the same chair, two devices in the same Windows slot. So one of the ways one can go about repairing that, and I would encourage you to Google around, look at Tom's Hardware. I'm going to offer two solutions. One is software based and one is hardware based. It's going to be a long chatty video. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead to the Start menu, bottom left, and click on Control Panel, which is in the list on the right. I'm in Windows 7. Inside the Control Panel, you have the third category down is Hardware and Sound. So I'm going to click on Hardware and Sound, not underneath it on Devices and Printers, but Hardware and Sound. That brings up a page with a lot of options. So the top section is Devices and Printers, and all the way on the right there's a blue and yellow shield that says Device Manager. We're going to go into the Device Manager, click on that. The bottom of my list in the Device Manager is Universal Serial Bus Controllers, which is USB. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and a large list pops up. I see my Logitech USB camera, standard enhanced PCI to USB controller, standard USB host controller, composite device, USB root hub. So what we're going to do, we're going to go in that section, we're going to try to uninstall all of the USB and then reboot the computer, and Windows will reinstall the drivers for all that. A lot of times this will solve any issues you have. So a lot of folks will tell you it's a good idea to unplug all of the USB devices from the computer when you're going to do this process. You need a mouse. If you have an old PS2 mouse, that's the round connection, it'll be green for the mouse and purple for the keyboard. That's great to use that because then you're not relying on a USB port to run the mouse. So basically you go in here, you open up Universal Serial Bus Controllers, and you see the list. I start at the bottom, and I will right click or other click on the first thing, which usually is USB root hub. When you right click on that, a list of a few things will pop up, and you'll see properties. You'll also see uninstall. You'll also see update driver software. You can attempt to update the driver software, have Windows look for it. Oftentimes that's not going to be fruitful. When you open Universal Serial Bus Controllers and you see a device that has a exclamation point, a yellow flag, or anything that would say unknown device or represent a problem, that's right away, that's going to be, ooh, that's not good. So that's the one you're going to want to uninstall first and then reboot the computer. In my case, in order to get it fixed, I had to uninstall all of the USB, everything. And when I would install the port that my mouse was on, sure enough, I wasn't able to do anything to the computer. So I was forced to manually reboot by holding the power button in for a second, releasing it, and the computer would shut down, and then I would turn the power back on. When it came back on, it started reinstalling drivers, the USB section. I still had the problem. I ended up having to go above that point on the list where my mouse was writing in that USB port, not uninstall that port, but everything else above it. And then that was when, after rebooting and putting my external USB devices in one by one, because I have a sound device and some other USB stuff, after putting that stuff in and manually reinstalling the driver for that sound device, it's a Line 6 guitar port, was what gave me the problem. At that point, then everything worked it out. So going into the Device Manager and uninstalling your USB drivers and then having Windows reinstall them often can help solve your USB issues. So that's what you're going to want to look into doing. Now, in my case, of course, I'm working with a bunch of old hardware. I'm recording an album using 3 different computers. This one computer's new. I just got it from Goodwill for $15. So, I mean, there's been minor technical difficulties. I have this device. This is a Shuttle Contour Pro. This is a remote control. scrub wheel device for recording for my DAW, my digital audio workstation. So instead of grabbing the mouse and having to find the button to hit record, and then when I screw up, grab the mouse and hit stop, and then right click on the track that I screwed up on, having a drop down menu come up, and then hit delete recording, and then go rewind, and then start recording again. If I'm playing and it's recording and I make a mistake, I can hit undo, rewind, record, and I'm back in recording. So that's how I'm able to do well concerning it with time to get stuff done, rather than every time I'm in playing mode and thinking about what I'm playing and what the mistake was, I get distracted by having to do all this manual work with the mouse, and that takes me out of the mindset where I need to be. So this is an incredible tool for recording. For me, this is how I get it done. Anyway, this thing started giving me problems. Last year, one of the songs I did before Christmas, there was a note on the video. It said, the shuttle, my remote, crapped out, and there was gnashing of teeth. So I couldn't figure out what was going on. So this happened again here while I'm working on the CD project, and of course I'm thinking it's USB related. So I'm in the device manager, I'm uninstalling everything, and nothing's working. I'm reinstalling the driver, I'm trying different drivers, wasted a whole day on this. And there was a couple other days where I had this thing conk out when I've been working on this album. Since Christmas I've been working on this. And it's wasted all this time. The name of the album is Minor Technical Difficulty. It's just been one thing after another, and usually my stuff runs really smoothly. I'm not one of these guys who runs a studio so I can solve problems and create them for myself and, swear and throw the mouse at the screen, and, I get stuff done when I record. So having stuff like this is very frustrating. So today when I was playing around with this, I finally got it in my head to take it apart and look at it. I can't believe I should have done it earlier because, of course, the cable was bad. What happens with these devices, any of your favorite USB devices, the wire is going to break either in here or in here where it bends. Or it might even be somewhere on the inside or somewhere where you put the chair on it. Someone sat and the metal chair was worn out and it kinked the cable and then it wore out from bending. So what I did in this case, I have a multimeter, and that has a continuity setting on it where if you touch the wires together, it tells you if you're getting a connection. So I opened up the device, and there was this connector going onto the board with wires bending down where I could access them and touch them. So I see here it's black, large black, small black, red, green, and white. And that's USB. The red and the black are the power. The 5 volts is the red plus. The black is the minus for the 5 volts. And then the green and the white are the data. And the large black is just a shielding for it, because it's a data line and it carries power too. So what I did to test this wire was I could see where each wire came out. I could access it and easily, here's the red wire, connect here on the PCB. So I would make one connection here, and then at the other connection I would go in here and I would go ahead and put it in here, and then okay, it's passing all the way through. Red wire, I got it, move it over to the green wire. I got it, move it over to the white wire. Nothing. So I had a break in the wire. So I unplugged this brown connector here. I grabbed my old bag of old mice. The first one I found was an old Lenovo. I measured the cable. It was 3 inches longer than the cable that came with the device. It's a $100 device. So I unscrewed the mouse, and I look, and the connector looks identical connector, but it's white. So I'm like, okay. So I pull that out, and then I pulled this cable out of the broken one out, and I held them up and looked at them. Sure enough, they were different colors, but they were exactly the same. And then I really looked at them, and the wires were in a reverse order. So it was big black, little black, green, white, red on the remote. And on the mouse, it was red, white, green, little black, big black. So what you do, you don't even need a soldering iron. You lay the connector down on the table, get a needle, and there's little flaps that you lift up on this connector. You go in at an angle with the needle and lightly stick it in there, and that will pry up this flap. And then you pull the wire lightly and it'll come out. There's a little metal, the metal actual clasp connector where it makes connection will slide out. So you just go through one by one, pull each wire out. I got them all out. I flipped them around and individually installed each one. As you slide them in, they will lock in with that tab. You know, you press the tabs back. The tab gets bent up a little bit, so you make sure that it's down, seated in there well. And when you insert each wire, kind of, you know, you'll have one or two that'll pop back out. If they're not right, you want to pull on them to make sure that they're in there good. But after going through that whole process and plugging this in and plugging it into the computer, ding ding, it installed. And I feel like a goof, because if it ain't one thing, it's another, but you don't always realize that, and you go down that one road so a lot of it is looking at it like, okay, the last issue was software based. This issue, do I want to go chasing software, or is it more likely that this is a hardware issue? And how I could have determined this being a hardware issue was to plug it into another computer and see what happens. But I didn't do that. So I wasted a little bit of time. Long story short, I wasted even more time making this video, so I wanted to say, please go easy on me in the comment section if you want to attack me for not delivering this information to you fast enough or quick enough. Just consider doing something else with your time. So thank you very much. If you're having USB problems, I wish you the best of luck. Computer problems are never good. USB problems I find them to be extra annoying. So I want to wish you nothing but the best of luck on trying to get that taken care of. I would encourage you to Google and look around and read. Most often that's how I solve any of the issues that I run into related to computers. It's places like Tom's Hardware, reading forum posts, I find usually, you know, and if you type in your problem and then you add the word fixed, like this, they fixed it, that may direct you to a thread where someone actually has an answer. It all depends on how you word what you're Googling. That's what I find. Get good at skim reading fast. Get good at changing your search parameters and how you word specifically what you're looking for, and you'll be able to really kick some butt on the internet. So, Twofinger signing off. I don't think I'm going to be uploading the album to my YouTube channel. I would have to make a video for the whole thing, which I'm going to need a break when I'm done with this thing. It's killing me physically. I've got ingrown fingernails now that are unbelievably painful, so I'm having to do home surgery on that, which is like, how do you play the guitar after your hand is, you know. So there's been minor technical difficulties. That's the name of the album, the working title of the album. So anyway, you guys, I'll see you around. Best of luck and peace.